Yeah.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the July monthly session of our Women in Business monthly growth session. Thank you so much for showing up today and saying yes to you and yes to your business. I am Holly. My name is Holly Penny. I am a speaker, I'm an author, I'm a podcast host. I am the founder of Nova Ridge Bookkeeping, and I am your host today. When I created this monthly session, my intention behind it was to connect the fabulous women in business that I have met throughout the years. So I wanted a way that I could bring us all together in one place because I knew if I could do that, we could create some awesome synergy to elevate our businesses to the next level. And my vision for this monthly growth session is to come together, learn together, and grow together. So it's time. Grab a drink, grab your lunch if you haven't, grab a notepad because we are going to learn some fantastic information from today's speaker. And her name is Stacey Vanthuyne, and she is going to talk about ignite in business and beyond. I'm really excited to hear from today's speaker. Well, I've heard Stacey speak before, so I'm even more excited to learn more from her. And Stacey did a little bit of a pivot with me. Generally, we have two speakers, and due to unforeseen circumstances, one of our speakers couldn't be here today. So Stacey gratefully stepped up, and she is going to fill the speaker slot with her fantastic presentation. In the spirit of networking, we are going to pop into our first networking breakout session. And in this session, I want you to share your name, your business name, what it is you do. And then our unique prompt today is what's one area in your business that you feel you could use some extra support with? So it could be maybe it's paper organization like your files, maybe it's creating boundaries with client, maybe it's creating boundaries with self, maybe who knows what it is. What's one area in your business that you feel you could use a little bit of extra support with? Welcome. And maybe you haven't met each other before, so hopefully you met someone new, got to chat and learn something new about them. We are going to move into our guest speaker slot today. So let me take a moment and introduce Stacey. Today we have Stacey Vanthuyne with us. Stacey is not just a high performance coach, speaker, and business consultant. She's also a whirlwind of energy and a powerhouse of transformation for high achievers at a crossroads. Her motto, there is no better time than today to win. As a successful entrepreneur and devoted single mom, Stacey embodies the resilience and determination needed to achieve dreams. With over 2 decades of expertise in people leadership and change management in both the fitness and the corporate world, she passionately guides women to rekindle their inner fire by reconnecting with their core desires, rediscovering their passions, and reigniting their purpose. Today, Stacey will share how you can rise above the busyness of life and create more fun, freedom, and fulfillment in your life as you step into your power, rise and elevate your identity. Today, get ready to dive into a conversation that's all about transforming life's challenges into a playground of possibilities. Stacey, I am so excited to hear from you.
Amazing. Thank you. I love your intro. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to share my screen and I appreciate your question because it's helped me even to know where exactly we can add additional value in speaking with Danielle and Caitlin and those watching. So I'm just going to view my slideshow. Can you see my screen?
Yep, we can.
It's funny, as you were saying, my motto, and I better start my timer so I am aware of my time. I have a tendency to love, to, as Holly says, my passion can get the best of me. And when it comes to talking to this, it is sincerely a passion of mine to help people to explore more of their own selves, to understand why we do what we do, why we think what we think, and ultimately to be able to transfer success into other areas of our lives. As somebody that achieved a certain level of success, I don't know what I thought, that once I got to achieve my goal growing up, that the sky would part, the clouds would part, the sun would shine down on me and be like, you've arrived, like, ta-da. And then I was like, wait a second, there's got to be more. But I had never allowed myself to dream bigger than what I knew how to do as I got older, because it was almost like I could measure what I could lose, but I could never measure what I could gain. And I think a lot of us get stuck in this trap. And this is where my passion is helping people who've achieved a certain level of success, but find themselves not being as fulfilled as they used to. So for myself, my spiritual strength had almost dwindled. And I remember thinking, if I go down, we all go down. So another one of my famous models is you don't have to have a breakdown to have a breakthrough. We can either choose to change in a state of suffering or joy or one of pain. And it really comes down to the question of, are we more addicted to the pain and the victimizing, or are we willing to bet on ourselves again to create more? That's how we ultimately have become entrepreneurs, is that we decided to get uncomfortable, take this risk. But if we don't consistently level up our beliefs, our self-image, we will plateau. And so this is kind of where I want to go with today, and sharing with the key to your success is you. And with that, I just want to share a little bit of background. So Holly did share with you that I came from the corporate world over 2 decades. Oh my God, I aged myself with leading people. And in all realms, honestly, I started in the finance industry, to the utilities, to automotive. I've been in public and private sectors. And one thing is true, we can learn the skill, but what I found was staple in all of my roles was with the people. So I've always been in people leadership, change management, and organizational design. And as I was mentioning in our breakout room, I think a lot of us focus on the technical aspects, and yet what's forgotten a lot, I've seen in corporate, is the importance of understanding the people. And again, getting back to why we do and why we do what we do and why we think what we think. And so I was fortunate enough to be mentored by the legendary Bob Proctor. And Bob taught me a lot around mindset when it came to uncovering those limiting beliefs and the power of your subconscious and conscious mind. And a lot of us go to change our results by focusing on the activities, but the activities is actually a secondary cause. The primary cause is those beliefs, those paradigms, the habitual way of living, and our self-image that resides in our subconscious mind. So for me, in order to change, and one thing I share with my clients is it's not just knowing what you want. So having a goal that's greater than you know what to do, but also tying that goal to the why. Because if your why is not strong enough, then the desire to stay the same wins. And so when we're going to achieve more, when you want to start talking about 10xing your life, quantum leaping your life, then we need to recognize that it's going to force us to get uncomfortable. And in order, if we don't have a great why, sometimes when we get to that place of uncomfortability, we'll easily slide back into our existing program. And when we go back to the program, we will just see our results stay where they are. They may improve 1 to 2%, but I mean, that is truly not even near the potential we each and I have. It's just still locked up in us, ready to reveal and rise ultimately. So I've been actually a single mom for the last 10 years. My daughters were 6 and 3 when I left their dad, and they're now 16 and 13. Actually, these were just taken a few weeks ago. My oldest turned 16. What's really important to me is family, freedom, and fun. I feel a lot of us leave roles and go into new ones for this element of emotional and financial freedom, but find ourselves still caught in the rat race of life and sometimes lose the fun. And yet again, I'm a big believer in universal laws, and like energy attracts like energy. And so when we're coming in with this energy of must and should and forcing things, we're actually not in flow and in alignment. And so things seem a lot more difficult. So I like to help people with increasing productivity, pleasure, and ultimately profits in life as we gain clarity. We build the confidence and the courage to act in a calm but urgent manner in creating more. So that's my girls. The little one on the right is my mom. She's so little, she fits under my arms, and now her granddaughters and myself are much taller than her. And the bottom picture is actually, I was just in an event. I was a speaker at an event in Charlotte, and it was all around rising and revealing, taking that confidence from the bedroom to the boardroom for how we do one thing is how we do it all. So a lot of times when I meet with my clients and or any entrepreneurs or business leaders, we start to judge our goals on what we've done in the past. So if I earned, I'm not sure, let's just take $100,000 in a year, then my goal might be 110. If my business made 3% profits from last year, I'm going to set a goal of 4 or 5% this year. But what happens there is, and I think this is maybe even where Danielle was talking about, how do you prioritize stuff? When we have goals that are just above what we did, and maybe 1-2xing our results, there is so many options that can come into our minds. And yet when you start to ask yourself something like, how can I 10x my business? There's much less options that come available, and we start dealing with bigger ideas. And through those bigger ideas, the goals will always drive the process. So I'm a big advocate of setting goals that are 10xing it. I mean, ultimately, they're your goals. But if we start to really think of quantum leaps and 10xing our goals, we get fewer solutions, and yet those solutions, we can really focus all of our energy. I was also sharing in our breakout room how, that Pareto effect of the 80-20 rule, that 80% of our results are driven from 20% of our activities. My question to you, and I'd love it if afterwards you took some time to really dive through this, is, well, what is that 20% that is driving my results? And if you just started to expand and focus in on that 20% and do more of that, how would that right away would cause a quantum leap? And those 80% of other things, you can start to say, do I even need to do them? Or this is the things we want to leverage out. So in order to 10x, it's not about working harder. It's about using the power of leverage. And so my quote at the bottom is, it takes the same amount of effort to 2x your results as it does to 10x. It is our thinking that keeps us small. So let's stop playing small. We've got 6 months left of this year. It is enough time to truly dig deep, unlock, and unleash more of that potential within. But here's the thing. We've got to start to look at what drives our results. And as I said, it's deeper than the activities. The activities is surface. We're going to go deeper. And at the end of the day, it's our standards that determine our story that determines our identity. And it's our identity, the way we see ourselves, that determine our results. But fundamentally, behind all of that is our philosophy. So what is the philosophy that you have today? And what is the philosophy of the person with your goal achieved? And can you start to act from that goal? So I have a quote on the bottom of this slide that says, decide every day is going to be the best day of your life. Every day is a new day to recommit. There's a reason why we write out our goal every day. Not only are you reprogramming your subconscious mind, because your subconscious mind doesn't have the ability to accept or reject ideas, it must accept what's ever impressed upon it. So the more that you can get into the feeling of your goal achieved, your subconscious mind believes that it's acting from that place. And then this is really where we start to attract more of what we require to achieve our goals. But if we want to aim for that goal and think that we can hit that goal with the same standards, the same beliefs, the same story, the same identity, the same results, or the same identity, we cannot. So it is not about fixing a model. It's about reinventing the model and acting from our goal. So let's talk for a second about philosophies. So one philosophy, and let's say you want it to, if we were using that example of 100,000 and we want it to start to earn 10x. So how am I going to earn $1 million? This is I have to start and act like the person who is earning $1 million. I have to adopt new philosophies that would be in alignment, that would drive those new standards, the new discipline that would determine my identity, my new story to create my results. So one philosophy would be that I am going to be 1% better each and every day, that I'm going to focus not on what's missing or the past, but on the solutions and what I can create. Another great philosophy, everything I touch turns to gold. Another great philosophy, I do it now. I get the idea, I act on it. Our subconscious mind is taught to keep us safe. So when we don't act on that idea, what happens is then all of the reasons of why that is not a good idea come into play, and we start to think logically. Logic kills more dreams than anything. And coming from corporate, I used to always tell my people, like, set smart goals. They got to be specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time bound. And that was probably one of the worst pieces of advice I could have given, because as long as we set goals that are realistic, that are logical, that means we are staying within our current thinking. And that means thinking drives feelings, feelings drive actions, actions drives the same results, and we get caught in this loop. So it is really around doing that deep dive into what is it that I believe? Do I believe that I can achieve this? Or am I just wishing and hoping? Because here's the other thing. Goal setting is an intellectual activity, but goal achievement happens by law for everyone in the same manner. Learn the laws, you can achieve anything, but it doesn't come without that persistence, that leveling up of your philosophies that ultimately drive the standards, the new story you're going to create of yourself and image. I think on this slide, I love this quote, is that the currency for attracting what you want in your life is your thoughts. I think that everybody would agree thoughts become things, and then they will only look at the things that, well, maybe something comes up in your life that you don't like, and you're like, well, I didn't think this, I didn't want this. But when you really start to think about it, were you fearing and wishing and hoping more than believing and knowing? And so when we really think about it, the highest currency that we have is our thoughts. What we put out is what we get back in. So are we believing more in the old story, in the old narrative, or in the new one? Are we able to have the faith regardless of being able to see it? Because faith isn't, I'll believe it when I see it. Faith is knowing when it's invisible. And I think that's really important for us because we've been conditioned to go by what we hear, taste, touch, smell, and feel. But we were born with mental faculties to create from the inside out. So a lot of people say, well, I'll do that. See, I'll work with you, Stacey, when I have the money. I'll work with you when I have the time. Well, guess what? You'll never have the money. You'll never have the time unless you act from that goal right now. The time and money will always get spent. It's where you want to go that will determine your actual results. So everybody is achieving exactly what we believe. Want to know what your beliefs are? Look at your results. And that really leads into this standard. So I think of the power of 5 when I coach people, which is really around what are your standards, your disciplines, the decisions that you're making that ultimately also have impact with your attitude and your identity. So every day asking yourself, how did I do? And not from a judgment standpoint, but really a neutral standpoint, because we have to start embracing our challenges or our areas of opportunities as gifts, because they allow us to know where we can focus. And it is impossible to exceed the standards you have for yourself, just as it's impossible to do more than what you believe you can. So it's really about not just consciously saying it, but living it from a subconscious mind that, again, is going to change the frequency of the actions that you do or the vibration of your body that ultimately gives new actions. So your standards, your self-image, your attitude sets the baseline of your results. And so in order to create more, we got to level up those standards. And what do I mean when I say standards? Let's say I said I have the philosophy of do it now, but then I do get an idea and I don't do it now. Well, I'm not staying disciplined to that standard. And as long as I don't, a standard isn't what I do occasionally, it's what I do all the time. So this is where we have to start to reimagine, reinvent a new story. And I want to stress that, I made kind of slight mention of our mental faculties, but everything that we see in our physical world has been created twice. First on the screen of our mind using our imagination, someone's imagination, and then persistence through disciplined actions, it manifested in the world. So when we have an idea, I'm so happy and grateful now that I'm earning $1 million, and I start to visualize myself and I use my imagination. I use my will to hold that on the screen of my mind, exclusion to nothing, another one of our mental faculties. I start to leverage my perception to see the world differently. Also, starting to tune into my intuition, another one of our 6 mental faculties, and the other ones are our memory and our reason, but our ability to think. Then I start to create it outside. So the moment I see this image, I want us to accept the fact that it is already here. It is done. Now it's just my job to get in frequency of the goal and live from that place, adopt the right standards. So what is the story that we're telling ourselves? Because how we narrate our story ultimately impacts our results. And it's really important that we reevaluate our story sometimes. Am I still telling myself an old story? Something I never got into, but the reason why I got divorced, well, I fell in love. And instead of having the courage and the confidence at the time, although if you had asked me, am I courageous and I'm confident that time, I would have said absolutely yes, which I was for my current results. But I didn't want to be in that marriage anymore. And I went outside of myself and over a period of a year and a bit, actually developed a strong relationship with somebody else and ended up having an affair. Now, in order to have that affair, I lied and I cheated. And it would have been very easy for me to keep to a story that I'm a liar and a cheater when I am not either of those things. I did that, but I no longer associate with that. But if I did, and you can see this in, people how one emotional impact or one thing has now become part of their personality. It didn't start as that. It was like a mood that became a temperament that didn't get any, wasn't really addressed or let go of. So as they kind of like ruminated on it and they continued to impress it in their subconscious mind, it became part of their story that then became part of their identity. So it's really important that we become aware of these things, and those old stories we release. And I thank myself sometimes for that, because I wouldn't know that if I wouldn't have gone through those things. So everything that we've gone through has brought us to a stronger place. And I don't hold myself. I had to overcome a lot of shame and guilt through that, but it was about letting that go and not letting that story continue on and impact me in the future. So as long as you put your thoughts on the past, present, or what's missing, nothing will change. And again, this is why I really stress that it's so important to get clarity of what it is that you want and have that image and live from the goal. So the magic lies in the momentum we start. So everything I truly believe starts with what is it that you want? And as a mother that was in her 40s and confused, that was a hard question for me to answer. In fact, the first time I was asked, what do you want? I said, I want my kids to be happy and prosperous, and I want to help them. And someone said, well, that's a great goal for your kids. What about you? And I was just like, holy shit, I don't know. I guess I want to retire. I want to do these things. And then all of a sudden I realized all of those goals I knew how to do. So there was no growth in that, which was why I felt stuck. We're spiritual beings having a physical experience. The essence of our soul is for further expansion and growth. When we continue to set goals that we know how to do, there's no growth. And the law of vibration states that we're either creating or disintegrating. So nothing stays the same. So this is why it's so important as entrepreneurs, as people, whether that's in your health, your relationships, your business, you're setting goals that you don't know how to do. They're going to have to cause you to stretch. And there's only 3 things we need for success: knowing where we are, knowing where we want to go, and then determining the price we need to pay and asking ourselves, am I willing? Am I able? And when you say yes to that, then sticking to that commitment, because nothing will happen without a decision, but then coupling that with those important power of 5, that discipline, those standards, the identity, and the attitude. So it really is, again, having the courage to do it, the confidence and the clarity. And remember, our mind's a garden. Whatever we're planting will grow. And our subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between when we're thinking of something and saying, I don't want it, or we do want it. For example, if you have a goal to get out of debt, don't think debt. Get debt, get more debt. You want to think freedom. You want to think what you would do with those things. You want to live already there. So success is ultimately based off of your habits and your attitude. And it takes time to discipline, to conquering that limiting voice and to reestablish habits. This is why a lot of us see these dips in our performance, because when my results are good, I feel good about myself. And when my results are down, then I question myself. Well, that's fake confidence. We've got to come from a place of knowing that regardless of my results, I feel fulfilled. I'm alive. I'm authentically me. And it comes through having that courage, and confidence comes through action. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Emerson, but Emerson said, do the thing and the thing will give you power. He didn't say read about the thing and the thing will give you power. Think about the thing and the thing will give you power. He said, do it. So we see a lot of people coming to these types of things, but then afterwards, never taking that action to make something different. And then nothing changes. You don't have to read a million books. Read one book for 1 year and do exactly what it says. Watch this presentation, ask yourself these questions, and you will come up with the answers and then act on them. But we have grown up in this world that if it's not immediate gratification, then we change. So we start hopping all over the place. And this is where it goes back to that 10X. Get focused on that one thing and ask yourself, what habit, what attitude, one behavior would I have to do that will move that needle? Follow it through for 90 days until it becomes a part of you, and then move on to the next. And so again, this is where we need to fall more in love with a vision of our future than the memories of the past. And like I said, that difference between where we are and where we want to go is all outside of our comfort zone. And the question that'll come up later, and I'm going to speed this up because I know I'm getting near the end, probably only halfway done, is are you committed or are you interested? And I personally believe it's one of the biggest lies that we tell ourselves is that we're committed when we are committed up until the boundary of what is uncomfortable. Then it causes us to invest in ourselves or to move or to do something that makes no sense. But those are the things that make the biggest impacts. And we've got to be willing to fail to win. And I know for myself, that's a really scary thing sometimes. But if I truly believe and I hold that image on the screen of my mind and I've made a decision that means no shit, no kidding, no matter what, I'm doing it and it is already done, then I let go of the expectation and I be in each moment and acting in accordance from the goal. So goals definitely started, but without that decision that you're going to be relentless, you're going to be committed and have that discipline and intentional action, nothing will change. So I had kind of mentioned this word paradigm, but this is really important to know is a paradigm is a mental program that has exclusive control over our habits and behaviors. And the thing is, almost all of our behaviors is habitual. 94 to 96% of what we do each and every day is the same from the day before. So this is where people want to make quantum leaps, but you can't make a quantum leap with only changing 2 to 4% of your thinking. We've literally got to reinvent the new. And again, to change the outside, we first need to change the inside. So what happens? Here we are with the bottom star where we are. We want to go to that goal, but in between comes fear. Now, when you really look into fear, fear is the expression of worry and doubt. And if I can leave you with one other thing, is when you start to worry and doubt yourself, you tell yourself old story. Old story. I'm not her. I'm rewriting my narrative. And then you go through this terror barrier. So the fear is almost like a terror barrier. And this is what happens to people is that we get this great idea. We're going to go through it. And just as we get there, we hit this block of fear. Now, if we don't know what's happening in our subconscious mind, then we fall back. But if we really start to understand the mind, what it's saying is our conscious idea isn't in alignment with our current paradigms. And so when we start to fall in love with this new idea, our subconscious mind says, whoa, whoa, whoa. This isn't comfortable. We get a vibration of uncertainty and we say, kick it out so I can just go back to feeling normal again. But what happens is the more that that idea gets kicked out, the less and less we believe our dream is true or possible for us. And that's why it's so important to live from the goal and break through this. And what does that require? Extreme ownership. So it is really around taking responsibility, having that ownership over your attitude, which is your consciousness. And we have consciousness towards everything. Ourselves is what I believe is the most important. So how you think, how you feel, and how you act determines your attitude. And as I wrap up here, I just want us to remind ourselves that success is not linear. It is a roller coaster of learning opportunities. And when we start to realize that our biggest learnings came from our failures, we can start to embrace that. And again, come with a neutral mindset so that we just neutralize and learn from that. And we adopt a philosophy of I'm always winning. So we don't even see those failures as losing, it's winning or lessons. So focus on winning each and every day. You take care of the moment, you take care of the hour, it takes care of the day takes care of the week, and the week takes care of the quarter. And as I mentioned a little bit earlier, it is really asking yourself, am I interested or am I committed? When we're committed, we will find a way. We will do whatever is necessary. We will take a bet and risk on ourselves. And I promise you something, you will never want more than what you can achieve. A lot of people I talk through intuition. Intuition is almost like God giving you a sign. Where I say praying is us talking to God. Intuition is him talking to us. And whether you believe in God or not, you can call it energy, you can call it universe, you can call it spirit. It all acts in the same way. And that's for further expression and growth. Everything is already here. It's for us to increase our awareness in order to create it. So thoughts do become things. We become what we think about. If you're curious what you're thinking about, look at your results. Want to change your results? Change your thinking. And so that's a little bit in a nutshell, like condensed, of how I help people. I help entrepreneurs, individuals, teams wanting to achieve more emotional and financial freedom. People at a crossroads at life. Maybe they've achieved a certain level of success, but they don't know how. They're unconscious competence. So now they don't know how to change or like how to transfer that success into other elements of their lives. And they're feeling a little bit stuck. And then we get into all the excuses. I'm too old. I don't have the money, all these things. But I'm telling you, those are just beliefs that we can shatter. And I do that either through personal mentorship, elite group coaching, corporate change, corporate training. And I guess I'll just leave you with my final quote. The secret of change is to focus all of our energy not on fighting the old, but on building and creating the new. So thank you, Holly, for having me and for you ladies for watching. If you have any questions, I'm all ears. I didn't see the chat until now. I can look at it. Oh yeah, perfect. Yeah, that's a little bit how you can create more success in your life.
Thank you so much, Stacey.
Thanks.
So helpful. I put Stacey's contact information in the chat. So Instagram, LinkedIn, all of the things, Facebook. Stacey was also a guest on my podcast a couple of months ago. So I put the direct link in there so you can listen to the podcast episode. And it's open floor, so Q&A. If you have a question for Stacey, please unmute yourself and ask away. One thing, Stacey, that you mentioned to me was I'm a very goal-driven person. Like since I pivotal moment in my life, went through my divorce, like all of the things, goals became really important to me. And recently, and I knew about SMART goals, and I'm like, SMART goals, knew what they were, knew what they always were. Like they were back, and I learned about it. And they recently came like up again. Like I don't know if it was in an email or a reel or somewhere, social media post, and I was like, oh, SMART goals. I was like, why don't I resonate with this? Like so many people push this, like smart. Is it SMART? Like SMART goals, SMART goals. I'm like, but it just doesn't resonate with me. And I'm so happy actually that you mentioned that, because like it doesn't need to resonate with me, because my goals aren't, they're not relatable for the current Holly.
No. And literally, if you know how to do your goal, it's too small.
Right.
Because, I will talk about A, B, and C type goals. And A, like I said, are those goals that, I mean, they're good to have. I want to buy a new car. Well, you know
Right.
exactly how to buy a new car.
Yeah.
And then I think a lot of us will set these goals that are like, well, I think I can. If I do this, this, and this, then I'll get to this. But the challenge with those goals is that they're not what you truly want. So they're not inspiring you. And then so we give
Mhm.
up.
Mhm.
And this is where we have to do the deep work to go like, what like lights you up? Like,
Mhm.
what is it? And then
Yeah.
I say, well, I'm afraid to mention that because I don't know if I can do it. And that's really where we have to like level up your identity to say, you absolutely can. Just because you haven't done it in the past doesn't mean that you can't. Or even myself, like I set a goal when I was starting to work with Bob. I wanted to turn my annual income into my monthly income.
Mhm.
And I'm not there.
Right.
And I could easily say to myself, well, that's not meant for you. But that's my old story.
Right.
But we don't get to determine the how and we don't get to determine the when. We
Mhm.
just live from it. That's our job is to
Mhm.
continue to act like I am, even though it doesn't. And as long as I use my, let's say, bank account as my gauge, then I'm a victim to my outside world.
Mhm.
And we see this with our kids, right? Their kids get a bad score on a test and all of a sudden they're like said that they're not smart in that area. That's not true. That was just one moment in time of what they did. But if we allow that report card and focus on only the report card, then that kid grows up thinking they weren't smart and then
Yeah.
they act into that.
Yeah.
So I think it's like I get so jazzed about this because I don't think that we talk enough about how whatever is impressed upon the mind gets expressed. And if we are consistently worrying and doubting, then that's fear that gets expressed and as what? Anxiety. But there's an equal, the other law is called the law of polarity. So there's an equal opposite to everything. So the
Mhm.
opposite of worry and doubt, which stems from ignorance, just not knowing, is ultimately knowledge. Well, how do you get knowledge? Through study, through understanding. And then that drives a faith in well-being, and that's impressed. And then it's like acceleration, creativity. And I think that's just so important. So I
Mhm.
honestly, I say that because my daughter had a speech delay. So she had started school really early and almost as was catered to, and she only got C's in school. And then recently we started her writing her report card in the last 2 years before the school year. And to think of an A student, what would they do? How do you want to act? And honestly, it's changed her world around.
Mhm. Yes. Yeah. Awesome. That's cool that you're able to take that and implement it with your children too. So they're learning these skills at such a young age.
Mhm.
Well, you
Yeah.
just taught it.
That's a really interesting technique, Stacey, that last one. I'm curious to maybe try that with some of my clients because what I hear throughout your presentation was a lot of parallels that I feel like apply to all of us, where it's like when we're working with someone, usually it's because they're overwhelmed, stressed, anxious, they feel stuck. And the first thing we always have to find is like, what is your goal and why do you want to get there? Whether it's accounting or marketing or
Mm-hmm.
organization, because yeah, when you don't have, when you don't know where you want to go, how can you make decisions that align with that goal? Right. And then you're just paralyzed and you can't do anything because you don't have this clear, um, when we talk about it, we do it like as a, like what's more important, your goal or this item, right?
Mm-hmm.
And very quickly, people start to see, like, oh, no, my goal is more important, right? Like having my grandkids be able to have a sleepover is more important than having 500 books or whatever it is. Yeah, so anyway, that really resonated with me about yeah, I could see how these different things apply to our client situations and our entrepreneur situations. So thanks for sharing, Stacey.
Oh, pleasure, Caitlin. And you know, when we were talking about the question and kind of those in when our breakout session with those things, one thing that I wrote down for it is I think it's really important that most of us have a morning routine.
Mhm.
But it's really important as well to take that 10, 15 minutes in the evening to reflect on our day. What went well, what went well, and to determine what are the 3 to 6 goal achieving activities that I will do tomorrow that's going to move me in alignment to my goal. Because again, I think we've grown up in this culture that says, well, you have to work 8 hours. And nobody, like, if you have 5 productive, intentional hours. You shut off social media. You already have your activities created for that day, and you focus there. You can quantum leap your life. It is, but being sure that you have those goal achieving activities. And then, like I said, aligning them with that 20% that gives you your greatest wins and focusing on in there, right? And I know for me, it's been probably one of my greatest challenges is sticking to that. And then that's why I have results that go all over. And I say, well, I wonder why. Like, I don't have to ask these questions anymore because I was like, because you weren't disciplined. Like, stop lying to yourself. You didn't do the thing. And so we keep wishing and hoping. And that's where I like to say, like, people may have these goals in the past and then say, well, I had that goal in the past. It didn't really work out. Well, I would ask them, like, are you though committed differently today? Will you do different disciplines and have you had the right direction? Because when the goal is big enough, it will determine the process. And I think a lot of, I think might may be challenging for you ladies in your roles is that people are coming for you for their solutions where they got to be able to believe that without you too, they can get there and you're a tool that they have attracted to help get them quicker. Like I think that coaches are the biggest cheat code because we can help you identify those gaps that you can't see. Would you be able to see them? Probably, but if you could, you'd be doing it already. So it's just kind of like getting away, but really bringing that person up that once that lady in your example has that goal that now she sees herself as the grandma that has the sleepovers and is playing and stuff and doesn't even now really identify as someone that loves books and only must keep everything that she buys. It's like changing it. Otherwise, they hire you for a little bit and then they just go back to their old ways of living it. It has to adopt a new story, a new identity in order for them to have that success continued. Makes sense.
I love that. And it ties in nicely with our next breakout room question. So you don't have to say your name and who you are this time because we're in the same breakout rooms. But what are 3 things that you're celebrating this week? We have the opportunity to be grateful for what we have now because we all know universe, God, source, spirit, whoever it is not going to give us more if we're not grateful for what we have right now in this moment. So I'm going to give you 3 or 4 minutes because I still want a couple of minutes at the end to chat to you about something exciting that's coming up. So take a minute for each of you, share 3 things that you're celebrating this week. One thing that I really enjoy when people go into breakout rooms, not just this session, but every session, is like when they take every single second in the breakout room, it means you're connecting. It means you're learning about each other. It means you're making those, those important connections that we need in business and life. So it always makes me happy when people utilize every second of that networking time, of that connection time. Today's session is brought to you by Nova Ridge Bookkeeping, a professional bookkeeping firm supporting women in business to finally feel in control of their finances. When you are ready to outsource the bookkeeping for your business, please call the team at Nova Ridge Bookkeeping. Now, I want to share with you our session for next month. It is August 1st at 12 o'clock, so lunchtime again. Our speakers next month are Emma Wood from Pretty as a Picture Photography. Her topic is on confidence. So building that confidence in your business. And then I will be speaking about preparing yourself for financial success. Yeah, that's what we'll be talking about next month. And you want to attend next month because I have been working on something in the background for a long time. And anybody that's in attendance next month gets a sneak peek. So they will have the first dibs, first look at this new thing. I'm just going to say new thing that I'm creating. So be there August 1st and you will have the first look at the new thing. Thank you, ladies, so much for being here today.
Thank you, Holly.